Hey friends, just a follow up on yesterday's video. I was covering Ephesians chapter 5 verse 1, and it says therefore be imitators of God. And we would ask, how do we imitate God? And in the video yesterday I provided what Paul says, right, in Ephesians chapter 4:17 through forward. It's negative things to avoid, positive things to do, and then he lists more negative things to avoid as well. And so I guess the reason for my video today is that I meet a lot of Christians, and they have the attitude that I think they misunderstand Paul in a lot of ways, because they think, man, I'm so glad I'm a Christian. Now I don't have to do anything. And because they read Ephesians earlier in earlier chapters, and Paul says it's by grace we're saved through faith and not by works, right? And so they think, yes, I'm saved by grace. I don't have to do anything. And they ignore the Epistle of James, which I have covered in another video, in another series. But Paul, in this same book, provides a ton of do's and don'ts. You know, for some Christians, they think, well, once I get saved, there's really nothing I have to do. Not to earn your salvation, yes, but there are 1,050 commands in the New Testament, more, almost double the commands from the Old Testament. The 613 ordinances of the Old Covenant of Torah tell us all the do's and don'ts in Torah, and so we think, oh man, I'm a Christian now, I don't have to do any of that stuff. I don't have to do anything. Not to be saved, but we do things because we are saved, and that is incredibly important. Paul says in Ephesians 5:1, be imitators of God. Imitate him. That is something you have to do. You have to learn what he calls righteous behavior and do that behavior. You have to learn what he calls unrighteous behavior and not do that behavior. And so Paul gives this long list in Ephesians chapter 4 of do's and don'ts. Don't do this, don't do that, don't steal, work hard, be kind, be generous, don't be greedy, etc. So please don't operate under the false assumption that once you accept Jesus Christ, there's nothing you have to do. There's nothing you have to do to be saved other than believe in Jesus Christ. But there's a whole long list of things that you have to do to be found righteous. You have to obey what God says to do. And he provides a ton of stuff for you to do. Matter of fact, it's even stricter in the New Testament than it was in the Old Testament, because Jesus repeatedly took Torah commands and made them stricter. You've heard it said of old, thou shalt not commit adultery, but I say unto you, if you look upon a woman and lust after her in your heart, you have committed adultery in your heart. You've heard it said, don't commit murder, but I say to you, if you have hatred towards your brother, you've committed murder in your heart. So he takes a Torah command and actually makes it stricter. And so I would encourage you, you need to know the Torah commands because Jesus repeatedly quoted them. Paul quotes them. You need to understand a lot of Jewish culture and tradition. You need to understand the biblical festivals because Paul clearly teaches these Gentile churches. They're really mixed congregations of Messianic Jews and Gentiles. He's teaching them these things because he quotes elements from these biblical festivals all the time. And if you don't know those things, then you're really missing out on some deep part of your faith. So don't think for 1 second that just because you're a Christian, there's nothing you have to do. There are lots of things you have to do because you are saved. All right. So there's your follow-up. I just felt like I needed to clarify that from yesterday's video to ensure everybody understands what Paul's true perspective is. Works matter. Works are important. We don't work to be saved, but we work because we are saved. And Paul clarifies that to ensure that the believers in Ephesus understand that as well. There are things you don't do, the things you do, and we do the good things and avoid the bad things because of what God has done in us and because God has called us to imitate him. And Paul reminds us of that, to mimic him. All right, so there you go. Have a great day.